going on, wrestling fans? How are you doing today? Welcome to the Tapped In Indy Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Heath Mulligan, joined by Nick McDaniel, coming off the big WrestleCade weekend. Nick, how was your weekend? How was your Thanksgiving? How are you, man?
Dude, doing awesome. Still tired. That's the problem with WrestleCade. It's a vacation that I need a vacation from every year. I'm exhausted when I come back. People don't. It's like, man, it's the drive's not bad. It's only about 4.5 hours, 4 hours, depending. Like I think up was 4.5 back because of everybody's the Thanksgiving traffic kind of coming back in.
Right.
But it's just so much. It's become so much more than just like the wrestling stuff that happens there. It's such a camaraderie. All the guys that we see there, it's just like a group of guys. It's like a routine of we just fall in. There's a joke. There's a table in the Marriott bar right to the when you go in the door from outside to the turn. It's like boop, it's right there. Like that's our table. We're there every year. People are like coming down, like, man, I knew I'd find you here. It's like that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a lot. Look, Ric Flair sitting at the bar, sharing pizza with Matt Riddle in the wee hours of the morning. So it's a crazy event, man. I always tell you, man, it's something like they promotions like to joke of you never know who's going to show up or you never know what's going to happen. I promise you, WrestleCade is the epitome of that. And before we go on, absolutely want to tip our caps to Tracy and Brian. They do a phenomenal job up there. It's growing. I appreciate all of the growing pains that they have. That every year they try to make those adjustments, and they do a great job of that. They do a good job of looking ahead to what could potentially be a problem and kind of proactively, taking care of those. Listen, when you put on that kind of event, though, there's absolutely no way you're going to catch everything. I would think if people spent more time appreciating everything that they do see ahead of time, you know what I'm saying? They would like the one or two things that happens that people are like, blah, blah, blah. Just roll with it. Like they did a phenomenal job. So again, tip our caps to Tracy Myers and Brian Hawks up there.
At the beginning of the year, they always have WrestleCade. They take December off. They come back in January with AML. And then January of 2024, their Acts of War Game show poster said the final season. And I messaged AML and said, hey, what's the deal here? And we got a message back. Hey, we're going to be making an announcement. And I'm very grateful that this was not the final season. And it looks like AML stronger than ever. And yeah, the WrestleCade, if you've never been, it has become, I would say, outside of WrestleCon during WrestleMania week, WrestleCade's become the premier wrestling convention in the United States.
Don't quote me, and I could totally be wrong, but don't let the facts ruin a good story here. I heard numbers passed around that potentially like 20,000 people passed through there over the weekend.
And from what I saw, the way that and you were telling me, the way that they set everything up, where you're not trying to get everybody into one room, you could absolutely make that happen. And the Fan Fest used to just be on the Saturday. Now it's Friday night, and there's so many. I remember the first one. We were in North Carolina with my in-laws, and I was thinking, oh, we should go to this. And it was just a one day, like a 3-hour event. I was thinking, okay, maybe we'll go to this. And it's just grown leaps and bounds. And if you want to hear more, you never know when we're going to kind of do behind the scenes and talk a little bit more about these trips. And the only way to find those is to go to patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. That's where you can become a member. You can support the show. I'm getting ready to send Nick a Patreon. I recorded this morning. Also, we need you to watch us on YouTube. We are mainly a video podcast now. You need to subscribe, hit the like button. I actually spent part of Thanksgiving going back through old videos and hitting the like button. You also got to hit that bell so you get the notifications We don't do the YouTube membership anymore. It's only through Patreon. However, maybe you are an audio person. Go to Patreon. You can create a free account. Doesn't cost you anything. There is free content on there, including how to take the Patreon feed and put that into Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or however you want to listen to it. That's what you can do. But again, we thankful for all our patrons, and keep your eyes open. Nick is always sending out coupons.
Yeah, that's the great thing about if you've got a free membership. Occasionally, I do send out some gift memberships to some free members and stuff like that, just to try it out to see if you like it. And that's another reason why I tell people to sign up for the free account, because you never know. I mean, you might get a free month of trying it out, and if you like it, you stay. You stay at that paid level or whatever. So
we have both used Patreon for years, and to their credit, at one point I thought Patreon was going away. To their credit, took care of their business. But they're always adding new wrinkles and new options. One of the options is doing live video on there. So we're looking into just giving content. That's what we're all about. Speaking of content, let's jump into some national notes. And coming off Wrestle Dream, the AEW ratings not very good this week during the Thanksgiving week.
Well, Full gear is what you're thinking.
Sorry.
You're ahead. You're ahead for the next paper. You're already thinking ahead. That's the issue. But the fallout of Full Gear, you would have thought there's lots of momentum. Just listen, I get it. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so a lot of people had a lot of reasons. It is what it is. We talked a little bit off air about some things that we think there's some big changes coming. Maybe that's a Patreon, right? Maybe we do a conversation about the future, like how things. We think it's not just an AEW situation. I think it's gonna be WWE as well. I think there's the game changer coming for both, and what that is. Does it involve streaming? But why? We can listen. If I told you, let's do the tease. We're gonna make a case for why both promotions are absolutely just going to their viewership is just going to skyrocket for both of them. I do think it's both of them, by the way.
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah, so I think that's something we can do over on Patreon, patreon.com/tappedoutpod coming up soon.
I think within a year, maybe even sooner, this time next year, we will not be analyzing ratings of wrestling shows in the same way that we've been doing since Dave Meltzer whoever started it 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
The conversation is going to be completely different. I think it's going to be I'm going to find it a lot more interesting. I do, but I feel bad for these podcasters who have become, and this is, no disrespect, because I love the WrestleNomics guys. Love those guys. They put out a report every year that I buy. But those people that have become experts at analyzing these quarter-hour ratings, I don't know that that's going to be a topic of conversation a year from now. It'll be something different. It won't be what. That's just my 2 cents on that. But I think I keep feeling like everybody is pulling for the demise of AEW, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, if you don't like it, just don't watch it. Like, that's just how I feel personally.
Look, there's what do we always joke about? There's 100 maybe full-time paid wrestlers who, like, why would you want them unemployed? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't even care if they're losing money. I don't care if their ratings are back up. I do care if they're terrible, but you get it. It is what it is. I just want these guys to still have a job. I want, like, a lot of these people backstage that we know and love to continue to have their jobs. And that's just the way I look at it. So you could always be constructive criticism. I don't understand the constant, punching down thing. I don't understand that in the least. But yeah, whatever.
Anyway, that is our 2 cents. We'll have more to say about that on Patreon, I'm sure. Let's jump in. What a pleasant opportunity we had a few weeks ago at Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. A young lady, I believe in her first year of wrestling, and we were able to capture her for This or That. And I'm talking about young Ragan Teal. And here we go with this week's This or That.
What's going on, everybody? It's Heath Mullican with the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast. We're here once again, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, supporting the Dusty Rhodes Foundation. And we are joined by a young lady, very new in her career, Ragan Teal. Ragan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me just after my match, too. So
that's
thank
right.
you.
That's right. And, hey, you need to follow this young lady. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram Reels, because I find them way funnier than TikTok.
Yes. Okay. Now, are you one of these people that do all the TikTok dances?
No, I'm not. I make really nerdy TikToks from time to before I started wrestling.
Yeah.
I made like WWE like fan nerd stuff. Now I just do stuff to goof around. But no, I am not a dancer. Can't you tell by the way I look in the ring? No.
No dancing. Okay. Well, I'll take off all the dancing questions. Now, are you neat or are you messy?
Both. Is that the best way to answer it?
Both.
I can be. I live with somebody who can be messy, but I try to be clean as I can. So,
I got you.
I tend to be pretty OCD, like clean.
Oh,
I don't look like it.
Yeah.
I look like a hobo sometimes, but I'm definitely one that tries to be clean. I prefer it that way.
Prefer clean. Yeah, I think
Prefer it
everybody
that way.
prefers it clean, but they also prefer for someone else to clean it.
Yes, I do, and I'm the one that ends up cleaning it. So
Yeah, that's true.
I don't mind though. It's like my escape.
Now, when you were in school, did you prefer math or English?
English, because I am not smart when it comes to math.
I
am
got you.
very not street smart at all, and
Okay.
could not pay attention in school. So
Okay.
English,
I get well.
which I don't have very well spoken grammar either. So I'm homeschooled.
Well, a lot of our fans don't have. Well, I won't disparage our good fans. Would you rather go to an amusement park or a water park?
Water park, because I love water, but water parks gross me out because of all the people there, and you don't know what the water looks like. So I will say amusement park, because I also love roller coasters.
Yeah,
I love like Halloween Horror Nights and
Yeah.
like going to Universal and stuff like that.
What's your favorite roller coaster?
My favorite roller coaster? I love let's see. I really like the Hulk ride at Universal.
Yes,
I love that one.
It's amazing.
I love their I don't want to get it wrong. It's their rocking roller coaster.
Yeah, the
It's
rocking
the
roller
red
coaster.
One.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I love all their like Hagrid. I'm a Harry Potter nerd, so Hagrid's
Hagrid
ride
ride
that you
is-
have to like get in a
Yes.
line to get in.
Yes.
I went on it one time, and it's like the coolest thing I've ever been on.
I got you. All right. Sneakers or high heels?
Sneakers, because I wrestled in my Jordan my Shadow ones tonight, and I love them so much.
Wait a minute.
I'm a sneakerhead.
You're gonna get those creased.
I have had those are my first pair of Jordans ever, and I've had them for years, and I kind of don't care anymore because I want to show off the fact that I am a sneakerhead. I got beat up Converse on that the canvas is ripping on them. So,
I got you.
and I have holes in them. So these are my working shoes, or I would show that I'm a sneakerhead, but I am a sneakerhead.
Okay. Tattoos or piercings?
Tattoos, I don't have any. I got piercings, but tattoos, I'd rather have tattoos. I just haven't been able to go get any.
Gotcha.
I used to drive race cars, so I had to wear helmets a lot.
Oh.
So the piercings, I couldn't do them because if you sweat in
Wait.
the helmet.
Whoa. Put a pin in that. She used to race cars.
I did. I drove right at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
We will be having a follow-up interview with you. Last question. So the next question, obviously, you're doing your wrestling road trips. Are you the driver or are you a passenger?
I am the driver. I drive everywhere to come to these shows, or at least try to, for Nightmare Factory and TCW and Monday Nightmares. That's what I wrestle on, and I am the driver all the time. Unless I get hurt, then luckily I have somebody who can drive for me. I used to not drive to them. I luckily have a mother who will drive
There
with
you
me.
go. You gotta have a
But
good
now
mother.
I have my own car, and I drive everywhere. So, yippee.
All right, tell everybody where they can come see you at one of these upcoming wrestling shows, or where they can follow you on social media.
Well, you can follow me on social media at Emma Ragan Teal, RAGANTAL, because people get it wrong all the time. I think that's my Twitter too. I'm not sure. I don't use Twitter often. I'll try to do it more.
That's where all the wrestling people are.
But you can find me on Facebook too. I'm Emma Teal on Facebook. Just don't tell anybody I'm Emma and not Ragan. So, but that's where you can find me. You can find me at TCW events. There's a girl with orange hair and long shorts on. That's me. TCW, Monday Nightmares. I think we have a few upcoming shows that I will be at. That we have one in McDonough I will be at. Monday Nightmares. The 15th. Thank you, Solar.
These people keep messing with us over here. They're trying
This one? Yes, this one is...
The Solar System. Solar System Part 2. Put up the graphic. Put up the graphic. Do we have a graphic? Put up the graphic. Put up the graphic.
Our Double Down. When are we going to
Universal or Disney World?
Universal.
Universal.
Wait, Universal because Universal is just cooler.
We're double micing it. Look at this.
We have taken over the
show.
Tapped Out podcast.
This is my show. Put up the graphic.
Wait, why not our show? We have to have a Double Down.
Show. Put up the double graphic.
Double graphic for our Double
Solar
Down that's
System
going
Double
to
Down,
happen.
whatever it's called. I don't know. Double Down sounds a little weird.
We'll see you at the matches.
We'll see you soon.
No, we're not done yet. The Solar System Part 2. Hagrid's or Velocicoaster?
Hagrid's.
Hagrid's is great. Velocicoaster is awesome. I rode it for the first time
I'm a
on
Harry
Monday.
Potter nerd. I can't help it.
I almost peed my pants. Great time, though. Cut that out. Cut that out. Put up the graphic. Put up the graphic. Like that. You cover the mouth. Yeah. So, back to talking. This or that, right? This is going to be a long
I would
clip.
rather you put the mic down.
See you at the matches.
Well, there you saw Michael Solar with the run-in at the end. Ragan Teal, whose match we saw that night was with Charlotte Renegade, who's returning from injury. And it's been great. You know, again, Ragan, I think we saw her we might have been on the show with her first match. And it's been fun to watch her grow and just to watch that progression of her. And she's one definitely to keep your eye on for the future.
I think that's one of the things I love about Turnbuckle in general is a lot of these young kids and kind of watching them literally go from the first time you see them, they're setting up the ring. And then they get an opportunity, they get a showcase match, and then they can build their way up, and then they're on the shows. And just watching their progression is kind of cool. And that's I try to tell somebody that's why you should go to those shows.
And also with the depth of the Turnbuckle roster, you will have, for instance, a guy like Mike Cunningham in his, I don't think he had 10 matches at this point. He's thrown into a 6-man main event with Billy Gunn. Because they have such a deep roster and they're doing all these matches, you can be very young. You're going to get a main event opportunity. And what better way to learn than get thrown in the deep end? We joked about
the barn burners, as we call them. Their first tag team match is literally their versus the Infantry, who's a television tag team, multiple promotion champions, and that's their first time. We talk about throwing kids into the deep end. I mean, that's a way to do it. But here's the thing: don't think of it as like, oh, they just throw. No, they get an opportunity of a lifetime early in their careers to have matches with the guys that are on television.
Right. And how have we not called the trademark lawyer and gotten the barn burners and all of our merchandise? You and I sat probably 20 minutes and we had so many merchandising items for this tag team.
Well,
and so listen, I need to see this happen.
Monday, we'll discuss it tomorrow, some of the shows, but next Monday on the 9th, I'll be at that show. And if Mike Cunningham and Sebastian Blaze are there, there's going to be a powwow about, hey, let's get this merch meeting rolling, team name, trademarks. I've got a trademark attorney I can turn them on to get signed up for. So yeah, guys, if both of you are going to be there, we're having that conversation come Monday night.
Just get ready to get some money to buy some matching gear, make an investment. So that's going to be interesting to see. So fans, let's jump right into, man, I'm itching to get into this week's Indy Rewind. It was not a crazy busy weekend in Georgia, but it started off hot. Thursday night, Southern Fried Championship Wrestling in Monroe, Georgia. So much going on. I don't even really know where to start here. You had the ultimate battleground match, which, you're earning a title shot. Bobby Moore wins Ultimate Battleground. He's going to challenge Hunter James for the Classics Championship. Hunter James defended that championship against Billy Buck in a ladder match. So Billy Buck's had his rematch. That's not the story of the night. The story of the night is you got Hunter James and the Crusade that have just been in running roughshod. They got the Classics Championship. They got all the titles except for that heavyweight title so far. But Thursday night, the Sexton Alliance was reformed. Todd Sexton, Billy Buck, Judias, Nick Halen, Adrian
Hawkins,
Bobby Moore got back together. Kelly Sexton talk some sense into him. Hey, we either die apart or we fight together. Here's the thing, though, and you and I watched the video. It's not posted yet. Where does this leave Rob Adonis? Rob Adonis, member of the Approved, but he wasn't around during the first iteration of the Sexton Alliance. Is this a tough sign that before the Sexton Alliance is even really full steam against the Crusade, there's already a chink in their armor?
Listen, we talked about this last week in a totally separate issue, right? Like, hey, this may be nothing.
Correct.
We could be just making a mountain out of a molehill. That's what we do on podcasts. But the question was, he wasn't there. I mean, he wasn't. So we're going to find out. I think the Approved, they're such a strong unit that I think they're going to be okay. But I don't think it's not an irrational question to ask. Like, what? So is he like, because he doesn't have that connection to Todd and Kelly and that group. So he's like, it could be something. Listen, he may just simply throw his hands up and go, this isn't my fight, and move on. Who knows? I don't think that's the case, but as we always like to say, time will tell. Like, we'll find those things out. So,
I want to say this. Speaking of that video, well done, Southern Fried. It was very clear that they're trying to tell a story with this Rob Adonis thing. The camera work, the editing, like, you can clearly watch this and pick up on all of this. And so I want to say kudos to that. I also want to say kudos to Southern Fried owner David Manders, who took out the trash Thursday night. Matt Griffin doing what he does, interrupting the show, and it got physical when Griffin pushed David Manders, and David Manders, not one to mess around with, just laid out Matt Griffin, who was then escorted out of the building. It says quite roughly, which I'm sure that nobody was concerned for the safety of Matt Griffin in all of that.
Listen, man, we've been saying this where he's sticking his nose in at Southern Honor, Forever Pro, the Blood and Honey series, on and on and on. That Matt Griffin is just, I saw these posts he's been putting on social media about, I run Georgia Wrestling runs through me. Well, here's your problem. Like, we kept saying, like, you do this enough times, eventually it's going to come back to bite you. Unfortunately for him, that bite was, David Manders' fist. Like, and it's, so it goes to we've talked about it. Like, listen, you got to, it's one thing to want to do it. And maybe we're going to discuss Southern Honor a little bit next week on the show. And, on tomorrow's show, we'll look ahead to the weekend. But did what happened at Southern Honor make Matt Griffin a little too confident? And so he thought he would roll over there to David Manders, and David Manders kind of shut that down real quick on Thanksgiving.
Yes. I think it's clear what Matt Griffin's trying to do. He is trying to establish his dominance in Georgia. I want to say kudos to the folks at Southern Fried. Wrestling to me is at its best when it's helping people. And they were able, between the last two shows, to fill up a 20-foot enclosed trailer and a pickup truck full of supplies going to the people in North Carolina affected by Hurricane Helene. We know some Georgia wrestlers whose families have been devastated by that hurricane. And so shout out to Southern Fried and their fans for what they've been able to do to help those folks. And Southern Fried, they'll be back in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Make sure you follow the Tapped Out show when Nick and Myron will give you the preview for their next big event.
Hey, let me ask you this, because we kind of glossed over the Hunter James match. Because here's the thing. Why did we gloss over it real quick? Because we hate giving the kid credit. Like sometimes he did a outstanding job. He did defeat Billy Buck by hook or by crook, as we always say. So you have to give the Hunter James kid some credit, begrudgingly, but yet we still will. But I also wanted, from a personal standpoint, a really cool moment. I did not get to go. We were drug on long, with Thanksgiving. Didn't get to make it because we were heading out early, literally the next day for WrestleCade. But to see video footage of, so essentially, and I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Ultimate Battleground is essentially an Indy Royal Rumble. We talked about it last week a little bit. So there's lots of storytelling that can be done. By the way, there's two people in Georgia that do it very, very, very well. Not going to name those people because I'm not going to hurt some feelings, but there's two people that I think do this type of match really well.
Right.
I'll go ahead and tell you Todd Sexton's one of them.
Right. I think you said who the other one was last week.
Probably so. So there you go. There's your answer. They do it. I think those two do it the best out of anybody. I'm not saying the others suck at it, but these are the ones that do the best. Obviously building to where we got to with that, the ending we got to, but also, friend of the show, Terry Lawler, in their spot. I kind of knew ahead of time because I was trying to that's one of the reasons I was trying to make it out there. It's kind of one of the reasons why, I was disappointed I didn't get to make it as well. But to see him on video, him and Todd Sexton in the same ring, it's kind of a cool. There's a lot of history. Terry Lawler and Southern Fried that a lot of people may not know. Terry's one of the OG Southern Frieds back in the Charles days and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to see him. By the way, tip your cap to him. And this is not insulting him then nor now. It's saying that Terry Lawler's in better shape today than he was a lot of, that period of time. So kudos for the old man getting in there and getting in the shape that he's in. And just, it was just good to see him in the ring, and him and Todd in a ring together was kind of a cool moment for me personally.
Yes, that is one of the things I'm interested to go back and watch the entire video to see that entire match, but to also see that moment. So again, great job, Southern Fried, all the way around, and we'll be staying tuned to see what happens between the Sexton Alliance and the Crusade. Friday night, Royston, Georgia, in the Royston Dome. It was Squared Circle Action Wrestling. This was their big Black Friday show. Lots happening on this one. Let's start from the top. We had the election. The election results were in. It did not take multiple days to count the vote. It was a landslide. Jonathan Feltner winning with 89% of the vote. John the Body Johnson got 10%. 1% was write-in. I would love to know who was written it in. That might have been me and you, Nick. We might have got some write-in votes for this.
I'm guessing Rick Page and his minions all put Rick Page in.
That's probably true. Jonathan Feltner has a mandate now to be the consultant there at Squared Circle Action. Let's start from the top. The big match that has been building for well over a month was Tower defending that SCA Heavyweight Championship against Drox. We talked last week about the matchup, about Tower having Taran in his corner, or excuse me, Drox having Taran in his corner to offset Rick Page. There was a power outage during this match, but at the end of the night, it was Tower standing tall, 231 days and counting, as the SCA champion. We thought this was the best chance we had seen so far for somebody to unseat or to dethrone Tower. Nick, what are your thoughts on this match and what's happening next?
Look, we talked about this last week. Clearly it's not going to be a guy at this point. I don't know that it seems to be anybody that's going to be a size thing. Oh, you got to have somebody as big as Tower to take him out. Size seems not to be an issue at this point. On and on and on. It pains you to say it. Like, I just don't. Like, I get it. Caleb Crocker, he took that number one contendership away from Hunter James. I get it. Hunter James found a way to get right back into the mix. I still. Okay, Hunter, here's where you cue it up again. I still say Hunter James is probably the guy. Baby, it doesn't matter, good guy, bad guy, whatever. Just all of the natural physical gifts of the athlete that he is. I think at SCA, when I look across that roster, no disrespect to anybody else on the roster, I think Hunter James is the guy who probably is the one to dethrone Tower. I don't know how we get there. I don't, other than the fact that it's this. Hunter James just wants to be a champion. He doesn't really care who he beats to become champion. So that's probably how we end up there. If he's a number one contender, with all due respect to Caleb Crocker, all due to Drox, everybody ever, Hunter James is probably your guy who I think is the man to dethrone Tower at this point.
Well, Hunter James, again, lost the number one contendership to the heavyweight title, but did become the number one contender to the Friday night championship. The new Friday night champion, Kyle Phillips, who took that championship away from Chop Top. And I think those two are going to be maybe going face-to-face this Friday night. Lots of other action. It looked like the SCA tag team titles had changed hands when Big Bad Brando and Austin Thorne defeated Ballinger and Nikki Hyde. However, following the match, Brando would not halt his attack on Nikki Hyde and also went after the referee, Jonathan Feltner, reversed the decision. And so Ballinger and Nikki Hyde still your tag team champions. Make sure you tuned in tomorrow to the Tapped Out Wrestling Show because SCA runs every week. So every single week you're hearing about them on this show, and then you're going to hear them on the Tapped Out Show as Nick and Myron talk about what's going to be happening down in Royston on Friday night. Saturday night, Coastal Empire Wrestling back in Savannah, Georgia. This has been a great year for them. And a young man who, if there were an award for 180 of the year from January to December, a young man who inside and outside the ring has earned respect, regained respect, kind of reclaimed his spot. That's Akeem Young, who defeated Michael Walker in a last man standing match that went 30 minutes, and he is now the new Coastal Chaos champion. I can't wait to watch this one on YouTube, Nick.
So I've seen some of this, just so you're aware. I have not shared. I have seen, and yes, you again, because it doesn't. I always tell people in these matches, when you take a something like last man standing, rules are out the window, and you know that. So there is no by hook or by crook you become champion. You win or you lose. Michael Walker has nothing to be ashamed of. The Flying Fro has represented himself, Coastal Empire, tremendously as that champion. It was a crazy match. Absolute crazy match. But, like you said, look, Hakeem Young, come January, was in a weird, because it was a funky place. And he has completely turned it around now to he's it's not just Coastal Empire. He is in other promotions as well, making an impact. So you do have to look, like him or don't. That's not the issue. The issue is he has made an impact across Georgia, and he's earning his place at the table. And by picking up that Coastal Chaos Championship, absolutely solidifies his place at Coastal Empire Wrestling. So now what's next? Is it the Fro come back and get an opportunity for a rematch? I feel like he's probably entitled to one after the reign that he had. He did such a great job.
Yes.
But, Hakeem Young's not going to be an easy W, as he proved at the last show.
No. We used to have a category called the hot hand. We're getting ready to bring that back. But cold hand may be the Donald Jakes ministry. He fired probable cause after they lost to the debuting Allen brothers. More on them in a second. We don't know where Randall Reno is, and Simon Sermon and Donald Jakes. I don't know that Donald Jakes is on the same page with anybody right now.
He's having trouble everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know if he needs to rally the troops or what he's got to do. But he definitely needs he needs a meeting. If you want to call it a church meeting, call it whatever you want to. He needs a meeting.
Right.
He needs to call the board together, and they need to figure this thing out, because you're right. He is just that they are falling apart at the seams at the ministry. And I guess the question's going to become who's to blame, but I've seen some teases for what's coming at the next show. It's still probably not going to be a good night for the ministry. Let's put it like that.
I want to take a moment. We don't typically go through all the results. If you're a fan of Georgia wrestling, you have to appreciate what Coastal Empire is doing. I'm looking at these results. I'm looking at this roster. Chad Skywalker defeated Kevin Cantrell. Those are two Georgia guys who are having good years. Haven't seen them cross paths. Haven't seen them kind of existing in the same universe. You have the Allen brothers, who are a team from South Carolina. Very talented team, defeating Probable Cause. So you got South Carolina coming in there. Hunter James defeated Simon Sermon. There's a matchup you don't see every other week. You had a debuting Cam Jackson taking a loss to Dax, but Cam Jackson, a North Carolina guy who's debuting. Alex Kane defeated Pat Roach. Exotic Youth defeated the Blue Chips. That's KJ and Pal and Parker Lee. And then the main event, Hakeem Young defeated Michael the Fro Walker. Again, I'm not just reading those results. I want you to hear the names, because that is not a typical Georgia roster show. And that's why Coastal Empire is at a different level at the end of the year than they were at the beginning of the year.
So I want you literally, this just popped into my head as you were doing this. I saw Kevin Cantrell in a main event somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Skywalker was the former Mayhem champion.
Yes.
Hunter James, multi-promotional top-tier champion. He is your current Classics champion. Mm-hmm. Simon Sermon, legend in Georgia. Dax Anthony has been around for a long time. Cam Jackson, from the Carolinas more than I do. Alex Kane, he's just a former MLW champion.
Right.
Pat Roach, by the way, he's a champion somewhere. Exotic. You literally, as you're going through these, I'm like, champion. Like, listen, the powers that be there at Coastal Empire, tip your cap to them when you look at the card, because that's an outstanding card. And I don't know who's not paying attention to them at this point, but you absolutely need to. This is one that I check the box. My notifications are on the Coastal Empire champion or the Coastal Empire YouTube channel, because when this show, the full show's out, the card's literally loaded from top to bottom.
Speaking of the Allen brothers, and let me apologize real quick. I'm getting the Allen brothers and the Moody brothers. Tristan Moody, I can't remember his brother's name. I apologize. Allen brothers are, I want to say, the reigning Carolinas tag team of the year. So that's not slouches coming in to your, they either won last year or the year before. So that's, again, these are award-winning tag teams, award winners coming into Coastal Empire. You know how you can find out where Coastal Empire is running again? Two ways. Number one, obviously follow them on social media. Number two, join our Patreon for free. You get that wrestling calendar that has all the wrestling shows anywhere, and you'll see where they're running next. Premier All-Star Wrestling was back in Carrollton, Georgia. So much going on in this show. Ryan Marks, maybe not legally, but got a pinfall win over Frankie Valentine. The Premier All-Star champion Stevie Ray Frost, not in attendance, but AJ Black took on Aaron Dallas for the number one contendership for that. And I don't know about you. I think that's an upset. I think AJ Black beating Aaron Dallas is a little bit of an upset and earning that title shot on January 4th.
Listen, maybe it's just, yeah, it is. Like we could sit there like Aaron Dallas is, he's got his rep going in Georgia now. He's been on a hot streak. Now, look, I've heard from a lot of people, by the way. Two things can be true. It can be an upset, but I have had a lot of people, and I mean in locker rooms, tell me AJ Black's a guy to keep an eye on. They see a lot of promise in him, and like, hey, kid's got it. It's like, okay, maybe this is the first step for us to see like, hey, it's just a breakout away from being in the team he's in a lot. So this is his opportunity to get his spotlight by himself.
Yes, and this show from Premier All-Star Wrestling, setting up a huge show. I just want to highlight some things why you want to go see their next show down there in Carrollton. The Billy Knight Invitational Battle Royal, the AJ Black challenging Stevie Ray Frost for the title. This is where we're going to get the grapplers versus Joe Black and Murder One, Mask versus Titles match. And then here's a singles match. I'm sure these guys have crossed paths. Two guys who were in the Rookie of the Year conversation last year. Alexander Lev taking on Aaron Dallas. That's a loaded card coming up in just a few weeks in January.
Yeah, and look, same to them. Like, look, a lot of shows this over the next shows, on and on and on. Lots of, this was another, like a Toys for Tot show, like, hey, we're doing that kind of thing. So a lot of that kind of stuff's coming up over there. So this is why I always tell people, follow the promotions on social media so you have that opportunity, like I said, especially through December. Lots of toy fundraising shows to participate in. So absolutely make sure you're following them on social media not to miss those type of announcements.
That's exactly right. Dynamic Wrestling Association in Williamson, Georgia. They're at the Barnstormers Event Center. Now, I apologize. It's been a week since we recorded. Was this their debut show, or they'd had shows before this?
We're going to look, I think they've run before because they've crowned champions before. So we're going to go with that. They've run before. Just look, and it's, again, they are new to us. We made the pledge. We're covering everybody who we get the info, and we're going to follow them. And that's kind of where this is ground zero for us, but not for them as a whole.
Right. So we're still learning. You had Nagicism and Ariel, with Ariel getting a win over Nagicism. That's pretty big deal. They had a 7-man scramble for the WWA4 internet title. AWOL, the defending champion, got the win in that. Jazzy Yang taking on Nikki Heat, and it was Nikki Heat getting the win. And it seemed to be a theme of the night was Chainmail kind of sticking his nose in on everything.
Which is not unusual if you're familiar with Chainmail. I've actually, had the pleasure of, coming across him at other shows, and it does seem to be a theme where he's a constant, problem outside the ring, and it seemed to be continuing even on this show.
Yes. At the end of the night, it was a young man we have spoken very highly of, WWA4 graduate Grayson Pierce defeating Teriyaki, and Grayson Pierce is now the Dynamite Wrestling Association champion. Make sure you follow them on social media. This was a loaded card, and clearly there's a partnership between them and WWA 4. WWA 4 used to run every Thursday night at their training facility. Do we know if they still do that?
They still run some shows. Yeah. They do still run some shows down there. We just got to pick up somebody to, like I said, start sending that stuff in, and we can kind of add them to the rotation for sure.
That is correct. Georgia Championship Wrestling in Buckhead, Georgia. Got to be Rolling Event Center. This was a huge night, and two big title changes. Let's get to the first one. Alexander Lev defeated Xander Seabolt to win the Georgia Heritage Championship. Seabolt had that title for about a month, I'd say. It was Lev winning that title. And with the debut of Pro Wrestling Aggression coming to Royston next year, I assume that the Georgia Heritage Championship is going to be a part of that promotion, and Alexander Lev is going to be right in the middle of it. Alexander Lev, Christmas came early for him. He's finished in 2024 on a very strong note.
Yeah, and based on, Alexander Lev's already busy schedule, I would go out to gamble and say that we're going to see that Georgia Heritage. Because, look, that was one of the things Jacob Ashworth did, traveled around defending that title. I think we're probably going to see the same with Alexander Lev. He's the kind of guy because here's the thing, he was already booked a lot of places. Going to add it to the mix. Now, it's tough if he's already another champion like at New Legacy Pro. That title's probably not going to show up because he's already a champion there. So, but I bet you at a lot of these other promotions, we do see him. It would not shock me in the least to see that title.
Speaking of the aforementioned Jacob Ashworth, he got a win over Thunderfoot 3 by disqualification. The Enterprise were able to retain their tag team titles against Unrated, but in the main event, and I don't even know how to put this into words, it was a Fans Bring the Weapons match. I hope there's video of this somewhere eventually. It was Shawn Nelson, hopefully not ending the encore presentation of Terry Lawler, but Shawn Nelson is your new Georgia heavyweight champion. Nick, I know you're a lot closer to this story than me. Just reading about this, I saw the picture of Terry laying bloody in the corner. This match seems like it pushed both men to their limits, to where Terry's family even was involved.
We talked about it last week about, look, Terry Lawler, but before he was, the fun, good time and rocker, he was a hardcore, legend here in Georgia. I knew it was going to take a lot, to get it to where, look, we always, and I feel like it becomes a phrase of mine, by hook or by crook or whatever. But kind of, here's the thing, in this kind of a match, it's just like we talked about in that last man standing match. There is no real rules. So it doesn't really matter how the finish, what happens. Don't write the old man off just because it's one match. It's a brutal match. Don't get me wrong, but that the encore presentation will not end just because one night he lost his title. There's a long thing. We'll get into that a little bit here in a second about that reign with that championship. But just like we did Akeem Young. Tip your cap, Sean. Nelson, you good night at the office. Mm-hmm. Now the challenge begins. Keep it.
Right.
So
it's one thing to get that title, and it's another thing to hang on to it. GCW will be back in Buckhead with New Year's Brawl on Saturday, January 25th, which is shaping up to be a very busy weekend in Georgia. You mentioned Terry Lawler. We just want to take a moment and just kind of highlight some of this historic reign that he had He originally won that title September 30th, 2023. He defeated Hollywood Hunter James for that title. There's another name that keeps popping up. So that's when that 427-day reign began. I was not aware that he had defeated Hunter James for that title.
Well, it's been so long ago, right? That's the thing. Like, he had been champion for so long, we kind of had forgotten who did he beat, to start that reign. And 427 days as the champion. Doesn't matter the promotion, doesn't matter the wears, doesn't matter. 427 days. And everybody's like, well, if they only run once a month, you only got. Here's your problem, folks. The Rocker was going to, and I'm going to skim through this a little bit faster than probably I should, but he was doing it at GCW. He was doing it in NAWA, Passion of Wrestling. I think what it was, then it was Disruptor. We were at a show.
Yep, we were there for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's kind of like primetime wrestling and Raw. A bunch of promotions. He was boom, boom. I saw him do it at a Southern Violence at Wrestling show. He defended the title. He was going everywhere. Renegade. I know he went up to Chatsworth and did up at Renegade. So, I mean, just like promotion after promotion. If Terry Lawler was on the card, he was putting that title up on he's putting that title on the line.
I'm looking through these notes. Multiple defenses a month, multiple promotions, which really, when you think Georgia Heavyweight Championship, you would think it would be defended all across Georgia, which he did. He covered a huge chunks of the state and defeated a who's who in Georgia. And so kudos again, Terry. It was the second longest reign in history, but the most successful of the modern age. 427 days. That is a fighting champion for sure. And like you said, we've not seen the last of Terry Lawler.
No. That encore presentation will still continue to rock on. I mean, and it, the great. Yeah. I know this is not the last we're going to see of him. So, and by the way, Sean Nelson's probably not the last time you're going to see of him either. So keep that in mind as well.
That's right. Well, let's jump into who won the week. And I'm going to mess everything up. I'm going to say this week we're going to use some English football rules, and I'm going to say there was a tie. Because I think both these guys deserve a trophy. First of all, the aforementioned Terry Lawler. He did lose that championship. And I don't think I do not want to use the OLD word. I do not want to seasoned. Terry Lawler is a seasoned professional wrestler. That's what I want to say. And as a seasoned professional wrestler, doing what he did, how he did it, everything we just said, he laid a blueprint for something that I don't think anyone has done before him in this time.
Can I ask you a question? I want to ask you something because, we're going off script here. I want to ask you a question. Yeah. There's an old saying in wrestling, sometimes the man makes the title or the title makes the man. I think for 427 days, Terry Lawler kind of took that title and look, I mean, no disrespect to the champions before, but yes. I think he turned it back into hey, across Georgia, this matters, that type of thing.
Yes, I 100% agree. However, and I also think moving forward, Terry does not need that title to run the same schedule, work multiple. I hope nothing changes for Terry Lawler. I hope he still keeps working these multiple promotions. There's people that haven't seen him wrestle that I'm hoping get the opportunity to see him wrestle in 2025. I hope he still keeps getting bookings in various places. And above all, I hope he continues to have lots of fun and remain healthy and Shawn Nelson, what are you going to do? The challenge to him is to top it.
Yeah.
Can he do that? Does he want to do that? Again, I think Terry just kind of laid a blueprint. The other person who I think won the week was Alexander Lev. He won that Georgia Heritage Championship. Again, a promotion that's been being defended at multiple promotions, which is really cool to see. Is he going to kind of in the kind of the vein of Jacob Ashworth and what Xander Seabolt was doing, defending at different places? Alexander Lev was at WrestleCade, got some exposure there. Was there with your buddy Myron, and that's literally the name of the sponsorship. Your buddy Myron. I'm what, and also the announcement over the weekend of Pro Wrestling Aggression, which I don't know what we're allowed to say. Let's just say this: there was another promotion that had been running in Royston that started with an A. It's no longer running. And if you look at the Pro Wrestling Aggression poster, it looks very similar to that other promotion. And Alexander Lev is very involved.
Could I sacrilege and say that poster, I think there's some of that looks better?
No. What I mean is the roster. I mean,
yes.
It's very, but no, that's a great looking poster.
Well, I mean, I think based on the things that I know, I am very excited for this promotion. They they have. Let's table that for another night. I want to pause. And the only reason to say that is, here's the thing. I want to make sure that Alexander Lev gets his love for who won the week.
Yes.
For winning that title. I think, my personal opinion, like the man attitude or not, doesn't matter. I find myself saying that a lot. Gifted in the ring, NWA talent, travels the state, travels outside the state. Absolutely, without a doubt, I think could be this generation's guy to carry that title back, to take it even from where guys like Jacob Ashworth, who were traveling all over, Seabolt, to his credit, by the way, carried on that tradition and was bouncing around the state as well. Right. I think Alexander Lev can take that title even higher than it has been in a long, long time. Going back to the original incarnation of what that title was, is, and always will be. But the kid does have it.
Yes.
We've seen it from where he was at to where he is now. I think potentially there's something special, and I think he's got a great opportunity to do two things. Flip that where I talked about title making man making title. I think he can be a man to make that Georgia Heritage title, which is crazy to think about when you think about the heritage of that title, no pun intended.
Yes, yes. I also think his involvement with Pro Wrestling Aggression could also open up some doors for him, give him an even bigger platform. But for this week, it is Alexander Lev and Terry Lawler winning the week. We wanted to do something we had not done in a while, or we've never done. Our first episode of this podcast was on February 14th of this year. And I was telling Nick before we hit record, we didn't even have a name for the show. It just said Georgia Indie Talk. It was not yet the Tapped In, wrestling podcast. And on that first episode, which the show has changed, the show format's changed because we weren't really talking results. We were just talking different things. But we did have the Power Five. And I thought it would be interesting to revisit that very first Power Five from February 14, 2024, and see what has changed in Georgia since we put this out. Let's start with number 5. Number 5 was Gary Lamb. And I'm just going to read the notes we had. Which, hey, patreon.com, become a member, you can get the show notes. Gary Lamb, he's the straw that stirs the drink. He always gets a reaction. He was posting about different things, and I asked the question, is it really a possible expansion, or is it master level trolling? We close out 2024 Gary Lamb at the moment no longer involved in Southern Honor Wrestling.
Yeah, there is. So here's the thing: Gary Lamb, Power 5. He's not in indie wrestling right now. He's gone. Does he come back? If he comes back, he's probably in the mix again.
Yes.
But if not, look, here's the first question. If Gary Lamb doesn't come back, is there anybody that can fill that void of him not being there? Now, there's going to be a name.
Yes.
But listen to the rest of the list, folks.
Yeah. Number 4, the Grapplers. At the time, they were starting to get more and more notice. They were involved in multiple title storylines, multiple promotions. Really, as we get near the end of the year, they're still, involved in Southern Honor. They've got the big hair versus mask match coming up. But the Grapplers certainly aren't as broad as they were earlier in the year.
Yeah, and that's like, look, this is what we talk about fluid, why the Power 5's fluid, why there's a hot hand, why there's so many other things. Things are going to ebb and flow. And like I said, you could still make a case for them because they're still like one of the top teams at Southern Honor. They're obviously in the tag team title picture there. They're obviously over at Bullpen. They're involved, so, over there as well. So they're still in the mix. But would you argue the top 5? That's another question. The Power 5.
Right. Certainly they would be in the top 5 tag teams.
Yes.
But this is the Power 5 overall. And I would say certainly not at this point. Number 3, Matt Griffin. Expanding shows and crowds. He was appearing everywhere. They were getting ready to enter SCI season. Matt Griffin, if anything, has only gotten more involved, expanded, and is appearing in even more places.
You hate to give that credit to where he talks about the things that, like, hey, I'm still not going to go to the link to say that Georgia wrestling runs through him. I'm not giving him that yet. But to say that he has his hands involved, like, think we just talked about what happened Thanksgiving at Southern Fried. Forever Pro, the Blood and Honey series. He's involved heavily in the SCI stuff. If the obviously action, obviously he's it's his thing. But so everywhere it just seems like he's involved. Listen. We're not saying he's 1, 2, 3, whatever, because we're going to get into a whole other separate conversation down the road about the Power 5 and where it stands today. But Matt Griffin absolutely, without a doubt, has a chokehold on one of the positions of the Power 5.
Yes.
We could debate the position. Here's the problem. I'm not saying I would actually disagree with where he would put himself on this list today.
I couldn't agree with you more. I would say Matt Griffin, if we look back through all of the Power 5s, he has been in all of them.
Oh, 100, without a doubt. Here's the problem. That's a thing. If you want to talk about consistency of being in that Power 5, Matt Griffin, I will give him that. He does his best, and his best keeps him in there pretty much. I would bet you're right. If we went back to look at every Power 5 we've ever done, I would almost bet it would be Matt Griffin / action, something to that effect, in that Power 5 every single time we did it.
Also, maybe in every Power 5, this next name, and that is Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. They have put people on notice without really caring if they put people on notice. I believe that this was very close to the announcement that they were coming back. I don't think they'd run their first show yet. Close to that, maybe. But they certainly have not slowed down. They certainly have just, whatever rules there were in Georgia, Turnbuckle has not only not adhered to those rules, they have written their own rules. They've done things their own way. And I'm very grateful for that. We've enjoyed a lot of their stuff this year.
Yeah, and it's just, they run a different model. They run a different show. They run a different type of show. And knowing some of the things that I know, 2025 looks to be a crazy, crazy pace year for Turnbuckle. So it is definitely buckle up, saddle up, buckle up, whatever you want to call it. They are not Turnbuckles. I always tell people there's one thing that could slow Turnbuckle down, and that's it. And I'm not getting into what it is, but there's one thing, and that is it. There's nothing in Georgia that's getting in their way.
That's right. That's right. Here's number one, and it pains me. I mean, just we said about this person, he is everywhere and getting better. And the number one person on the very first Power 5 was Bryce Cannon. And it wasn't long after this, Bryce suffered that year-ending knee injury, or at least aggravated it to the point where he needed surgery. The question I have for you, Nick, as we enter 2025, we think about these lists. Have we created our own version of the Madden curse?
No, I don't know. I don't. Because I'm going to say something, and I'm going to tell you why. Life happens. It does.
Yes.
But, bold prediction. We don't know return dates. We don't know those type of things. We can guess based on athletes' surgeries, return dates to sports, etc.
Mm-hmm.
This was February 14th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, and only because I don't know return date.
Right.
May 1st or June 1st, depending on return date, 2025, Bryce Cannon's back on that list.
100%.
You want to? I've got all kinds of prediction about Bryce Cannon's 2025. There needs to be I need to do a Patreon on it. Maybe bring him on and tell him, like, these are all the things that I predict for 2025. So that way, come the end of next year, I can go back and look like an idiot, or I can look like a genius.
Let me say this, and I don't want to peel the curtain back too much. There was something that happened. Bryce reached out to you. You and I had a conversation about that. And it got me more excited for his return because it was clear to me he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, more so than usual. He is like focused. He is ready. It's almost like he's got this righteous anger built up in him.
There's something about taking if I'm speaking out of turn, Bryce, let me know. But take all of the frustration, because it's got to be frustrating. Look, anybody who says, "Oh no, it wasn't," okay, you're lying. Take all that frustration. He channeled it. He's going through the whole process of the recovery, the physical rehab, all of those type of things. I think the hunger, the desire, and the passion is going to burn so hard that when he comes back, I think, I said it in my head before I said, he is going to literally like be shoot out of a cannon and he's off to the races. Like, that's what I see in 2025. People can say, like, oh, I'm going to be this. I could tell you he's going to win this. He's going to be a multi-time champion. I could tell you that, whatever. I think maybe we see him on a TV at some point in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good, like, that's how we thought his 2024 was going to look. So it doesn't change. It just pushed it back, say, 9 months. But I still see the thing of 2025 looking like I thought maybe his 2024 would look.
I think once he gets a few matches under his belt and truly trusts that knee, I think Bryce Cannon is going to be right where he left off. I don't think Bryce Cannon is going to have to kind of wait his turn in line. I think he's right back, and hopefully better than ever. I just think I mean, we've seen Bryce Cannon focused and hungry and nasty, but now that's going to be turned up to 11. That's exciting to think about, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Well, fans, again, let me give you a little tease. You might be thinking, well, what's your Power 5 right now? Well, let me tell you, you're going to have to become a patron because we got a whole episode we're going to talk about the Power 5, the current state of Georgia wrestling. There were some, we always get on here and there's always been some posts on Tuesday morning. I think some of the boys know that we record on Tuesdays and they start stirring stuff up. But we want to talk about the state of Georgia wrestling, what that has to do with the Power 5. And so we invite you to become a member at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Again, you can watch the show every week on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. That helps the algorithm. I don't know how the algorithm works, but if you leave a comment or hit the thumbs up button or hit the bell to get those notifications, that does help our algorithm and lets YouTube know, hey, people are watching, people care, and that helps us out in a great way. But we're getting into one of the most fun seasons of the year as far as Georgia wrestling. And I'm excited to start talking about that stuff. I'm also excited to talk about going into next year. One of the things we've been missing this year, we have all our show notes, which has all the results, but we haven't really found a way to keep all that nice and neat or be able to go back and see, all right, who all did this guy wrestle? A lot of the wrestling promotions, you're already putting your stuff in the cage match. I know Action Wrestling stuff is on there. Southern Honor's on there. There was a couple of others. But a lot of the promotions that are not, we're going to start putting your results into cage match just to help us when we get to the end of the year and we want to talk about, hey, who had a good year? I can type in your name, be like, oh, this guy beat this person. Back in fit. And it's just going to help us kind of keep better records. And so we'll go in there, and if you're already a Georgia promotion, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, and you're like, hey, we do that anyway, or do that already, let us know so we're not doubling up on the work. But we're happy to do that. I mean, I think it'll be good to help with some of our research and stuff, and just some of the Patreon stuff I'm working on, I know, for the new year. But I'm excited to do that, and I think 2024 has been a very fun year. What you think, Nick?
Yeah, and look, you're talking about it'll help with the research, but I mean, it'll help. Like, look, some of the guys get their stuff on there. They can look back. We've had people like, who was it that asked on social media, like, I think it was Cruel, like trying to guess how many matches he had for, and I'm sitting there and I saw the total. I'm like, because clearly there's promotions not putting it in there.
Right.
If I were if I owned my own promotion, which I don't, but if I did. Okay, we ask you to send the results to us. That's what we want. I send that format out, etc. But why would as a owner of a promotion, whether it's the owner, the booker, the audio visual, whoever's in charge of that stuff, like, why would they not be putting that stuff into cage match for you? I mean, as an added bonus for working on their shows, Here's my shot of the show, right?
Uh-huh.
If Action Wrestling, if Southern Honor can take the time to do it, why is there a promotion that says they don't have the time to do it?
Right.
How long does it take? You know what I mean? Like, how long does it take to put in how long does it take to copy, literally copy and respond to the thing that I send? Not long, whatever. Yes. If I'm a wrestler, ask yourself, I'm working for a promotion who just says, I don't have time for that.
Right. Yeah, I would really, if you're even a wrestler on the show, why aren't you putting your personal results on there?
Something.
And again, as I've been looking, there's a lot more promotions on here than I'm seeing. So that's a good thing. I'm seeing Coastal Empire on here. I'm seeing Southern Honor on here. Obviously, Action Wrestling. So anyway, we just want to cover more Georgia wrestling, and the more information is out there on the internet, it helps us do our research, helps us have more intelligent analysis, which is why you're here. But the main thing is get out and support independent wrestling. Make sure you check out tomorrow. The Tapped Out podcast is Nick and Myron talk about the upcoming shows this weekend. Anything else on the docket that you guys are talking about tomorrow?
Listen, let's first and foremost, let's do the right thing and point it out. You did. You said Myron like a couple times. Myron returns tomorrow to the podcast. We're happy. We're glad he's back. I think Russell K did a huge bump for him. I think it's exactly what he needed. And we're glad that, our buddy Myron's back. So he'll be back on the show tomorrow. And I know a lot of people are asking about him and stuff like that. So, join us tomorrow. And, he'll, like you said, your buddy Myron's back.
You'll also find out where we may be at a wrestling show this weekend. And fans, that's what it's all about. We thank you for your support for Nick McDaniel. This is Heath Mulligan, and we'll see you at the matches.